Welcome to today's Town of Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. The date is the 11th of June, 2026. To begin with, we have an important message from the Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Ms. Fenwick.
Which I will read. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, including the use of AI note-taking apps, please notify the chair. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 2025 signing of Chapter 2 of the Acts of the 2025 extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until June 30, 2027, this meeting of the Chatham Zoning Board of Appeals is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 613-386-693, and the pound sign. Or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, Xfinity Channel 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. In accordance with town policy, the public can speak to any issue, hearing, or business item on the agenda during the meeting when recognized by the chair. And there are a few procedural steps that I'll go through just as a reminder for everyone. There will be a roll call of board members by the chair. Ask if any citizens or non-board members participating in the call via the phone only for their name and the last four digits of their phone number for identification purposes. Our hearing notice is read by staff, Sarah, and you or your representatives present the appeal or the application. Anyone in favor of the appeal or application may speak. Is it 5 minutes? Okay, change, 5-minute time limit. The chair may read or summarize all letters received by the board. Anyone against the appeal or application may speak or ask a question. 5 minutes, a time limit for that also. The applicant may rebut the testimony. Board members may direct questions to anyone present. Board hears any further information. The board closes the public hearing. The board deliberates. We vote on appeal or the application, and all votes are taken by roll call. At the end of the meeting, we close the meeting via verbal confirmation, and we note the time of adjournment.
Thank you. Thank you. I might add that votes in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, to be successful, you need to have a supermajority. In our case, since there are 5 voters, you need to get 4 in the affirmative. We need a roll call of all members to approve this form of meeting, and I'll start with Dave Veach.
David H. Veach, and I approve this meeting format.
Ed Acton, I approve.
Paul C. Semple, I approve this format.
David S. Nixon, I approve.
Virginia Fenwick, I approve.
Stephen D. DeBoer, and I approve.
Lee Hovey, I approve.
Okay, first off, well, I should tell you who's voting today. That would be Mr. Veach, Mr. Semple, myself, Virginia, and Lee. We have some minutes. Dave Veach.
I will move approval of the minutes for May 7th, 2026, as presented.
I will second that motion and vote yes.
Dave Veach votes yes.
Ginny votes yes.
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Okay.
And then I will move approval of the minutes of May 21st, 2026, unless there are any changes. Any has to offer? I'll approve them as presented.
I will second that motion and vote yes.
Veach votes yes.
I vote yes.
I wasn't present, so I'll.
Okay, thank you. All right, Sarah, our first application, I believe, is 26-036.
Application number 26-036, 277 Old Harbor Road Realty Trust, care of Ken Murphy, P.O. Box 43, West Chatham, Mass. 02669. Owners of property located at 277 Old Harbor Road, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessors Map 15F, Block 13, Lot J2. The applicant proposes to change, alter, or expand a nonconforming dwelling on a nonconforming lot via the partial demolition of the existing dwelling and nonconforming detached garage and the construction of additions. The existing dwelling is nonconforming and that it is located at 18.06 feet from the road where a 25-foot setback is required and 13.5 feet from the southerly abutter where a 15-foot setback is required. The proposed addition will comply with all bulk and dimensional requirements of the bylaw, but is considered a substantial alteration and under the second except clause of Section 6 of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, requires the grant of a special permit. The existing building coverage is 1,617 square feet, 14.54%, and the proposed building coverage is 1,622 square feet, 14.58%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is nonconforming in that it contains 11,124 square feet, where 20,000 square feet is required in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the Protective Bylaw.
Good afternoon, the board members. Thank you for your time. I'm Ken Murphy from Centerpoint Design, representing James and Patricia Waggett at 277 Old Harbor Road. My clients are here to add an addition onto their existing footprint, and right now they have an existing garage they would want to take down to finally have an area so they can enjoy their afternoons and evenings in beautiful Chatham. Sorry, there isn't really any detrimental to the neighborhood as far as I can see. I think we really stuck with the look of the neighborhood. We didn't go beyond the footprint. We met all the current setbacks and lot coverage. Even though the property is pre-non-existing, I think we still met all the requirements of the board to be able to fit the structure of the addition to match the same details of the existing property now. Even though it's an antique home, but not that of an antique. So putting the addition on the back end of it to match the character roof lines of the existing house was our goal.
Could you tell us the extent and the purpose of the addition, please?
It's mainly to have a family room. They have a dining room now, and they have a living room, but the Waggetts would really enjoy an area so they can be able to sit out in their backyard and view their grandchildren and keep one single-car garage because Mr. Jim Waggett is of age, and he would like to still have a garage and to tinker in and have, a number of his projects he would continue to work on.
Okay, could you go through the criteria, please?
I forgot my criteria list. Would anyone have
We could help you out if you approach. Sarah will give you one.
Perfect.
She'll loan you one.
Yep.
That's another $150.
As I mentioned before, the size of the lot, including but not limited to maximum lot of building coverage and setbacks, we meet all of those. We're still right under the 15% lot coverage. Number two, compatibility to the size of the proposed structure, with neighborhood properties. Again, we're not going beyond our setbacks. We are meeting the means of the requirements of the Town of Chatham's bylaws when it comes to lot coverage and setbacks. Number three, the extent of proposed increase of non-conforming nature of the structure. Well, the front part is already pre-existing non-conforming, but when we tear down the existing garage, which is not conforming, we are making the property conforming. The proposed garage and the rear proposed addition. suitable for the site. I believe we are suitable for the site. It meets, again, the setbacks, and I kept with the same roof line as the existing part of the house. I know this board really would like to see a continuation of the existing main structure of the property. And I think when I worked with the Waggets and their kids and then their kids, 3 generations, that was our big purpose, is trying to make sure that we kept the same roof lines and, in the details of the existing house, because the character in that corner is seen by many people, of course, in Chatham as they drive by. The impact scale of sitting in a massive neighborhood, again, the addition is smaller than the main part of the house. I think the existing addition that's on the property now is not in character of the house. I think we're doing a great improvement of the neighborhood and the structure. That was an addition probably put on 20 or 30 years ago. That really doesn't help with the current, with the owners right now, what it has to offer. They have a lot of existing problems with the flooring and the access to the back mudroom. And there's a laundromat, and it's kind of dated, old-fashioned cabinets that would love to update and be able to have something that's more functional with the space than what's there now. What's next here? Number 6, compatibility with proposed use of the neighborhood use. I think what the addition that we're going to be putting on, we're still using pretty much the same access driveway to get in the back of the garage part here. If you can show the the site plan. Thank you. Right now, the existing garage is here, and we will continue to add, keep that driveway there to access the back of the proposed garage in here. This is where their family room will be, so when they can have, gatherings here in the backyard. Still, as you know, this road is pretty much a highway. So, and in the past, they've had people hit their front porch. There's, I think in the recent year or two, that they just had that replaced. So being to sit in the back and enjoy their, family gatherings has been their main goal for this addition. Impact of traffic and flow. Well, I really think that the flow of the house is going to be much better. If you can show if you have a floor plan available. We added a proposed access on the side, and this is where the proposed family room will end up being, and then they're keeping the 1-car garage, and the height of the garage is a little bit higher because Mr. Wagner would like to still, as I mentioned, store a few things above, since we will be getting rid of the garage off the side of the property. Noise and litter, I doubt there'll be any noise and litter on the side of on the back part of the property. Adequacy of utilities and other public services, that's not going to impact this property at all. All the connections will be, tied into the existing house. Number 11?
I don't think, you don't need to do 11.
Perfect.
Thank you. Anything else?
That should do it.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here today that would like to speak in favor of this application? Also applies to anybody online. If so, let us know. Don't see anyone. I'll read the correspondence. First, we have a note. This is from Judith Giorgio. She's the health agent for the town. She writes on June 9th, I have no concerns regarding the proposed addition of this existing 4-bedroom dwelling. Then we have a note from Christina Bassett. She's writing for the Department of Community Development's Historic Commission. She writes on June 9th, the Chatham Historical Commission found this home to be historically significant, but the changes do not materially diminish its historic significance, so therefore they did not impose a demolition delay. That's the extent of the correspondence. Is there anyone here today on Microsoft Teams that would like to either A, speak against this, or B, has a question? If so, please indicate you'd like to join the conversation. Don't see anybody. So, questions from the board? Dave Each.
I have no questions, Dave.
Ed?
Just one question. The ridge of the addition looks to be like maybe a couple feet lower than the main house. Is that
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
About 2 feet approximately?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
welcome.
Paul?
No questions.
No questions.
I have no questions.
No questions.
Nor do I. Okay. Dave?
Yeah, I'll move to close the hearing, move into deliberations.
I'll second the motion and vote yes.
Beach votes yes.
Ginny votes yes.
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, deliberations. Ed?
I think it's a nice addition. I think it's going to fit well. It's a couple feet lower than the existing house, so I don't think you can really see it from 28 at all. And I think the architecture certainly matches with the existing house. So I think he did a nice job, and
Thank you.
I think there'll be many generations that'll hopefully enjoy it.
Paul?
I agree. I think it meets all of our criteria. It's certainly not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Jenny?
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues, and I agree with everything that Mr. Murphy said. It is an improvement to the property, although doesn't need much improvement. It's a gorgeous home and a gorgeous lot. But also, you know, I appreciate the fact that it is the home was 1900s, and oftentimes these historic homes have smaller rooms on the inside, and so practically speaking, I can see how adding that onto the house as opposed to the detached garage will increase. You mentioned, you know, moving a few walls, expanding a little bit. The upstairs floor plan I noticed was different, and I think that that's a great project as part of this project in improving the enjoyment of the space inside. So I fully support the project, agree it is not substantially detrimental to the neighborhood, and it's an improvement.
Steve?
Yeah, I think this is a great project. It eliminates a setback issue by eliminating that garage. But keeping a garage that's attached is probably more convenient to the family. I think, you know, you're changing the style of that, it was, I guess, a mud room or a laundry room from a hip roof style to a you know, subordinate gambrel, which matches the house better. So I think overall, it's a great project.
Yeah, I think Mr. Waggett is going to miss his garage, but I think he'll be happy with his newer garage. Thanks.
So I agree with my colleagues as well. When we were out there, it's really quite a modest addition, but I think it's going to make a big difference in the house, so I approve it as well.
Thank you.
Dave?
Yeah, I agree with all previous. I wish all the ones that came for us were as easy to approve as this one. It's a really nice job.
Thank you.
So with that, I will move approval of application number 26-036. My sense is in this location, we would want to apply all of our usual conditions. So that would be that all construction activity and vehicles shall be contained on site or at a neighboring property with the permission of the property owner. Between June 30th and Labor Day, no exterior construction will be allowed. No work should be permitted on the weekends. Construction activity between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. only.
I'll second the motion and vote yes.
Beach votes yes.
Ginny votes yes.
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. That's a unanimous decision. Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you for your board and your time.
Sarah, 26-037, please.
Application number 26-037, Edmund and Nancy Mantle, care of Christopher Cannon, P.O. Box 201, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owners of property located at 75 Shane Drive, also shown in the Town of Chatham's Assessors Map 15H, Block 2, Lot B40. The applicant proposes to change, alter, or expand a nonconforming dwelling in a nonconforming lot via the construction of an addition. The existing dwelling is non-conforming and that it is located 27.7 feet from the road where a 40-foot setback is required, 23.4 feet from the westerly abutter, and 22.5 feet from the easterly abutter where a 25-foot setback is required. The proposed addition will comply with the required setbacks. The existing building coverage is 2,125 square feet, 19.3%, and the proposed building coverage is 2,250 square feet, 20.5%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 11,000 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6, and Section 5B of the protective bylaw.
Mr. Litchfield.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Bill Litchfield here on behalf of the Mantell family. The property technically is owned by Nancy Mantell as trustee of a family trust. I represent the family, and we are here seeking the construction, special permit for the construction of a sunroom or garden room in the rear of the property. I know you all went out to the site and you saw that we're staked, we are proposing to basically enclose the existing patio to provide for some additional living space for the Mantell family. Mantells have owned this house for, 45, 46 years, something like that. And we have other generations coming along, and we'd like to have, as shown there on the bottom, the ability to construct a sunroom. Like many of the houses in this neighborhood, it was constructed mid-1960s and has a pretty substantial overhang. Well, because most of the overhangs in the neighborhood are less than 2 feet, they're not counted in coverage. But because this overhang is 2 feet and 2 inches, it increases our coverage from 15.2% to what it would ordinarily be, still non-conforming, up to a 19% coverage. So I suspect when you saw that number, you kind of said, that's kind of large. We're going from 19 to 21 or whatever the number is. In reality, we are talking about a very small addition, 125 square feet. So while the coverage number is higher because of the town's policy on the extent of overhangs, this one is 2 inches wider or longer than the norm in the neighborhood. So I'll go into the criteria as to what's proposed as to adequacy of site. The site is adequate for the house built in 1964. Like everything in the neighborhood, we have an existing lot size, street, and sideline setback nonconformity. Which is because the neighborhood was developed under the old R10 zoning. I think you can find the site to be adequate for the addition of the small sunroom at the rear, which meets setbacks. The coverage, as I indicated, is somewhat deceptive due to the overhang being 26 inches rather than 24, but that necessitates inclusion of the entire overhang. We're only 15.2% for the house itself. It will remain consistent with the neighborhood if you approve the special permit. As to compatibility of size, on the third sheet of the handout, all of the neighboring lots are non-conforming. We are in the mid-range of gross floor area at 13.7% and living area at 1,604 square feet. As expanded, it will remain compatible with neighboring homes. It's still a modest home in keeping with neighboring properties. As to the extent of increase in nonconformities, as Sarah read in the legal ad, we have 4. The only one that will change is coverage by 125 square feet, the footprint increasing from 1,604 square feet to 1,748 square feet. You might do the math and say, well, that's not 125 square feet, it's 144. The 19 square foot difference is because we're no longer have to count the coverage, which is going to be replaced by the sunroom. So it's a 125 square foot addition. As to suitability of site, this was the second phase of the development of what was an old dairy farm. All of the houses were built in the mid-60s. There are no wetlands or environmental issues. It is a suitable site. It's a residentially developed site as it has been for the last 60 years, and it remains suitable for the small addition, which will be quite useful to the family, but will have no negative impact or any environmental impact. As to scale, citing mass views and vistas, again, it was developed under prior zoning. Smaller lots with, generally speaking, single-story, low-scale homes. The existing structure is of a piece with surrounding houses. The proposed garden room, sunroom is not visible from the street, as you know from having been out there. The rear yard is heavily vegetated by a very substantial holly tree and is largely fenced. It will remain reasonable as to scale and mass and consistent with the style of the neighborhood. There are no views at issue. The compatibility of use remains the same as a residential use. We have town water and a 3-bedroom septic. There's no change. The health agent has reviewed. The chair will read her letter. She has no concerns. So as you know, the issue for you to decide is whether this proposed modest addition is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the current non-conforming house on a non-conforming lot. The house will remain consistent and compatible with its surroundings. The percentage change, again, is somewhat deceptive because of the coverage issue. The overhang and coverage issue, it's actually quite modest. It remains of a piece with the neighborhood of 125 square foot addition. The resulting living area will remain modest at 1,748 square feet, but it's a much-needed gain for Mrs. Mantell and her family, and the house will remain consistent with the scale and style of the neighborhood. So in light of the criteria and the plans, I think that you can find that the proposed change is not substantially more detrimental. I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here today or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in favor of this application? If so, please indicate you'd like to speak. Don't see anyone. So I'll read the correspondence. We have a note from Judith Giorgio, Town of Chatham, Health Agent. I have no concerns regarding the addition of a sunroom at this property. That was on June 9th. And then we have a note, this is from Ryan and Catherine Johnson. On June 1st, they write, we are the owners of 39 Shane Drive. We are in support of 75 Shane Drive to alter their property, and also 32 Air Lane to alter their property. That's got nothing to do with this, but it will with our next one. So that's the end of that. Is there anyone in Microsoft Teams or here that would like to speak either against this application or has a specific question? If so, please indicate you'd like to speak. Don't see anyone. Questions from the board? Paul?
I have no questions.
Ginny?
No questions.
Steve?
Steve has no questions.
I have no questions.
Dave?
Now, I just wondered if Chris Cannon was scouting the neighborhood, offering 2 for 1, or...
We did our best to accommodate the board, given the price of gasoline, so we scheduled it appropriately in that regard.
No other questions then.
No questions.
Dave?
I move to close the hearing, move into deliberations.
I'll second the motion and vote yes.
Beach votes yes.
Ginny votes yes.
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Deliberations? Ginny?
Well, thank you, Mr. Litchfield, for reminding us about the R10, the old R10. And I was surprised that those were R40s. The lots are all small in there. And also for the explanation for the overhang. I think that was, makes a lot of sense. Even without that, I liked this very much. I think it fits. It's a modest addition to the back. And even though it is increasing the coverage, it works in that property and in the neighborhood more broadly. I felt like there are a lot of homes in that neighborhood that are very appropriately making small additions. We're going to see another one in a minute. To that neighborhood, and that is our criteria. Does it fit in the neighborhood and is not substantially more detrimental? And I do believe it fits in the neighborhood and is not substantially more detrimental.
Steve?
I think it's a very modest addition that give them a little bit more living area and enjoyable areas. I have no issues with it.
Lee?
I agree with my colleagues. I think it is a very appropriate addition, and I think it's going to make a world of difference.
Dave?
I agree with all previous, nice fit for the property in the neighborhood.
Ed,
And I agree as well.
Paul?
I also agree with my colleagues. It's certainly not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
No, and I agree, and I also think it makes a great improvement, frankly, to the backyard. It really does. It gives it a lot more, something going on there. Okay,
So I will move approval of application number 26-037. When I look at this and the size of the project and everything, I'm inclined to allow for construction during the summer months. Of course, that means that we have a subsequent application coming, same issue will be for us, but I'm, whatever the thoughts of the board are, I'm inclined to do the first point and then the hours with respect to summer work, but not to prohibit exterior construction in the neighborhood.
okay. Ed, what do you think of that?
I think, you mind if I ask the applicant
Sure.
what are your thoughts or the applicant's
I,
thoughts?
thank you. I explained to the applicants that the board customarily imposes a limit on summertime construction. Leave it in the hands of the board. They have no objection to that.
I'm trying to remember, how, is there much off-site parking there?
They have not a circular drive, an indent in the
Yeah.
front,
Yep.
as well as the driveway itself.
Yeah, I think the size is very reasonable. The only thing may be the pouring the footing and cement trucks, but that would be short-term. So I guess I don't have any objection to letting them keep vehicles on site and work through the summer.
Okay, Paul?
I agree with my colleagues.
Jenny?
I actually think that we should impose it because it's a small neighborhood. It's not so much the construction in that lot, it's the neighborhood and just Chatham more broadly in July and, June, July, August. It's already the middle of June, so they wouldn't realistically be able to start until the height of our summer season. So but it's such a small project, I could go either way. But I would just do it just because of the broader Chatham neighborhood of noise. They're pretty tight in there, too.
Steve?
I think I would probably impose the normal restrictions. It's a very tight neighborhood over there. Small lot, I think it's going to be difficult. So I would impose the regular. In fact, if they're acceptable to that, then I think it's appropriate.
I agree with imposing the normal conditions with no construction in the summertime. It is a tight neighborhood. There's lots of walkers, there's lots of kids, and it's already mid-June. So waiting till after Labor Day, I don't think is a problem.
Yeah, and I agree also to that, so.
Okay, with that said, the conditions that I would propose would be all construction activity and vehicles should be contained on site or to neighboring property with permission of property owner. Between June 30th and Labor Day, no exterior construction will be allowed. No work should be permitted on weekends. Construction activity between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. only.
I will second the motion and vote yes.
And Veach votes yes.
Janie votes yes.
I vote yes.
I vote yes, that's a unanimous vote. Thank you, Mr. Litchfield.
Very much.
Okay, on to 26-038.
Application number 26-038, Charles and Sarah Heil, care of William G. Litchfield Esquire, 330 Orleans Road, North Chatham, Mass. 02650. Owners of property located at 32 Air Lane, also shown on the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 14H, Block 50, Lot B34. The applicant proposes to change, alter, or expand a nonconforming dwelling on a nonconforming lot via the construction of an addition and relocation of an exterior mechanical system appliance, AC condenser. The existing dwelling is nonconforming, and that it is located 31.2 feet from Air Lane and 27.1 feet from Shane Drive, 15.7 feet from the southwesterly abutter, and 16.7 feet from the southeasterly abutter. The proposed addition will be non-conforming in that it will be located 26.2 feet from Shane Drive where a 40-foot setback is required, and 8.9 feet from the southeasterly abutter where a 25-foot setback is required. The existing AC condenser is non-conforming in that it is located 21.1 feet from the southeasterly abutter. The relocated AC condenser will be non-conforming in that it will be 12 feet from the southeasterly abutter where a 25-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 1,445 square feet, 13.4%, and the proposed building coverage is 1,610 square feet, 14.9%, where 15% is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 10,807 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 6, and Section 5B of the protected bylaw.
Mr. Litchfield.
Good afternoon. Still Bill Litchfield, and here on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Heil, Chip and Sarah Heil are seated in the audience. They have owned this house for a number of years, are spending more time here, and would like to sort of plan for the future with the eventual ability to have one-floor living. Chip has had some knee and hip problems, and Sarah said she's not going to push him in a wheelchair. So they'd like to have a larger first-floor bedroom with a good-sized, reasonable bathroom as well. Because, and thank you, Sarah, that's good timing, because of the location of the house, this was not one of the Campanelli slab houses. This was built by an Eldridge, as a matter of fact, around 1965. But because of the siting, it's on corner lot, so it has street setback from both sides, but it's very nicely sited, far back from the road, but because it is far back from the road and angled, it's non-conforming as to the two rear lot lines. And there is really no way to put on an addition without completely reconfiguring the house internally, except for where we're proposing it now. So it is obviously closer to the southeast lot line, the one on the bottom right on that side. But I am happy to report that the owner of that property is enthusiastically in support of it. It abuts it's her garage, which is next to the proposed addition. She has absolutely no objections, nor are there any from several other neighbors, all of whom wrote. And as you can tell, I didn't write them because they're all different. They're brief, too, which is another indication that I didn't write them, but we'll get to that later. So what is proposed is an expansion of the existing, rather small, I think it's something like 11 by 11 first floor bedroom to allow the Hiles the ability to sort of age in place. So stylistically, as shown there, it is a simple addition matched architecturally to the scale or size of the existing house, with two windows on the Shane Drive side. It'll be set back fairly far from Shane Drive, although still technically non-conforming. So I'll go into the criteria as to adequacy of site. The site is adequate for the house built 60 years ago. We have the nonconformities that Sarah read in the hearing notice, which are true for most of the homes in the Old Harbor Pines neighborhood. I think you can find the site to be adequate for the 160 square foot addition, which again is designed to accommodate eventual one-floor living through a larger bedroom and a new bathroom. The house obviously abuts two streets, as I mentioned, non-compliant as to both, as well as to the sideline, but it is, unlike many, compliant as to coverage, and if you approve the special permit, it will remain consistent with the neighborhood. As to compatibility of size, on the third sheet of the handout, there are comparable lots. All of the neighborhood lots are non-conforming. We are currently the lowest in coverage at 13.4%, and have relatively low living area of 1,613 square feet, 900 on the first floor, roughly speaking, and 700 on the second. As expanded, the house will remain compatible with neighboring houses, or compliant coverage, which is less than many. It is still a modest home in keeping with neighboring properties. Living area is 1,773 square feet, which is hardly extraordinary. As to the extent of increase, we have multiple nonconformities, including the existing exterior mechanical appliance system, which we are necessarily seeking your permission to relocate. If you approve the special permit, and I hope that you do, the addition will be 1 foot closer to the street, and while it's certainly closer to the lot line, again, the affected abutter supports that change, which is on the garage side of her house. She would have been here but had a medical, not an emergency, a medical appointment, but she did right. We're also, again, seeking to relocate the non-conforming condenser as well. As to suitability of site, the site is plainly suitable for residential use. It will remain suitable for the addition of a larger but certainly not palatial first-floor bedroom, which is without any impact on the natural environment, but it is an important benefit for the human environment, which sometimes should be a consideration, that of the Heil family. As to scale, sighting, mass, views, and vistas, again, as is in the last hearing, and as Ms. Fenwick noted, this was developed as an R10 zone. When we did some rezoning in 1985, it was upgraded to R40, which has made many nonconformities, as you are aware, but presently we have an attractive and well-maintained full cape with a dormer at the rear. The existing house, as I said, is angled on the lot, but it has a positive impact on streetscape, but no impact on views or vistas. If you approve the special permit, it will remain reasonable as to scale and mass. It's architecturally appropriate and consistent with the house itself. There's no negative impact on views and vistas, and that's a very nice rendering. I think that gives you a sense of what is proposed and how it will look. It will have no impact on views and vistas, and I think it will have a positive impact on streetscape. The health agent has written that there's no change in the number of bedrooms, and she has no concerns. So as you know, the question for you to determine is whether this proposed rather modest addition is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the current non-conforming structure. The house will remain consistent and compatible with its surroundings. There are currently nonconformities as to sideline and the street, and those will change, but both are typical of the neighborhood in which every single lot is non-conforming, and again, coverage remains low and compliant. The living area will remain reasonable at 1,700 square feet, but the addition will enable eventual aging in place, so-called, for the residents. There is, as I indicated, significant neighborhood support, particularly from the only affected abutter, who wrote and told the Hiles that she saw her mistake, and she said it will look like it's been there forever. And I think, frankly, she is correct. Unlike some cases, this is a modest request by a longtime homeowner with an understandable and I think a reasonable request, 160 square feet in the only feasible location to accomplish the goal, one of which is consistent with the goals of the bylaw. Former member of this board who happens to be your liaison often thought about and quoted the purpose and intent of the bylaw. The first of which is ensuring the health, welfare, and quality of life of Chatham's residents. And this special permit will serve the Hiles in that regard. In light of the criteria and the plans, I think you can find that this proposed change is not substantially more detrimental. I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here today in the audience or on Microsoft Teams who wishes to speak in favor of this application? If so, please indicate you'd like to join the conversation. Don't see anyone, so I'll read the correspondence. First is from Judith Giorgio, health agent, June 9th. I have no concerns regarding the addition to this existing three-bedroom dwelling. Then we have a note. This is from Marie Fulcher, I guess, on June 10th. She writes, we support going forward with the addition. They are wonderful neighbors. That's from Marie and Dick Fulcher at 65 Shane. We have a note from Charles O'Connor on June 9th. We wish to communicate to you and the ZBA our enthusiastic support for the requested addition. We reside at 53 Shane Drive, a short distance away. The Hiles plan will have no negative effect on the neighborhood, and we support their going forward with the addition. That's from Charles and Mary Lee O'Connell. Then we have a note on June 1st. Catherine and Ryan Johnson, right, we're the owners of 39 Shane. We are in support. I think we already heard from them. And so we now have a note from, well, it says written to the Hiles, but we'll take it to written to us. On April 11th, Roberta Consaga at 84 Shane Drive writes, "The drawings look great. I can tell from the measurements that this is just what we discussed, and you staked to get a sense of the scope of the project. Given this is on the garage side of my home, I have no issue at all with the addition. In fact, the drawing makes the addition look like it was always there, which is a sign of good design. Best of luck." Then we have a note from Barbara and Tom Moriarty, 31 Air, June 9th. "The plan will have no negative effect on the neighborhood, and we support the Hiles going forward with the addition." That's the extent of the correspondence. Is there anyone here today on Microsoft Teams that would like to speak either against this application or has a specific question? If so, please indicate now you wish to speak. Don't see anyone at all. Questions from the board? Steve?
I don't think I have any.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
I'll move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
I will second the motion and vote yes.
Beach votes yes.
Judy votes yes.
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Deliberations. Lee?
Well, I think this is a great addition. Having a first-floor primary bedroom is always a good idea, and especially with some, good bathroom space and closet space. I think it's a very appropriate addition. It is not substantially more detrimental, and I also want to just make notice of Chris Cannon's renderings. They're really very helpful to see kind of a 3D image that you can really see what it's going to look like. So kudos to Chris Cannon, and I will be supporting this project.
Dave?
Yeah, it's certainly not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. It fits as the neighbor wrote it. It's going to look like it was always there. Great project, and happy to support it.
Ed?
I guess my concern is sort of the big ask of going from 16.7 feet to 8.9 feet. And that being even less than, the original zoning of 10 feet. But I guess I sort of understand it. I mean, I imagine if that chimney wasn't there, they would have slid it forward and you would have gotten a little bit more. My concern is just typically we don't, allow such an increase in a nonconformity, but I don't believe it'll be substantially detrimental, and I sort of see the reasoning behind it. So in this case, I guess I would allow the increase and understand it and don't feel it will be substantially detrimental and obviously have the neighbors' support. So if I was voting, I would vote in there.
Paul?
Yes, I agree with my colleague's comments. I agree with Mr. Litchfield in indicating it's not palatial, although they do have a new center-high cathedral ceiling, which is nice. But it looks like a very good project and one that will extend their use of the house, which I think is a great idea. So I will vote in favor.
Jenny?
I'm going to tack on to a couple things. So I understand what Ed is saying, but I like what you said in the very beginning, Mr. Litchfield, at the shortness in the back, and in this case, the side, is at the expense of the extra in the front, which is very attractive, and I think adds to that corner. So I think from a trade-off perspective, I'm okay with that. I also want to comment on what Lee said about Chris Cannon's rendering. So what I like about the side view of the addition is the kind of asymmetrical, almost salt box on the side. It's subtle, but it's there, which echoes the front, or the existing house, which is being covered by this addition. So I think that was obviously, intentional on his part, but a great detail that I wanted to comment that I noticed. I also happened to meet their dog, and I noticed that Chris incorporated the dog in that photo. So kudos to Chris, because I met Brewster, one of the 3 dogs today. I think it's a very attractive project. I think it does meet all of our criteria. I mentioned this with the previous home on Shane, which is right across the street, frankly, that this is an appropriate addition to these smaller homes in that neighborhood, and it's similar in scale to the other projects, of which there are many in that neighborhood. And so I think it is very much in keeping with the neighborhood and not substantially more detrimental.
Steve?
Well, I think, like everyone else said, I think this is a great little project. It provides a little bit easier way of life. I think if the air conditioner were a generator that produces quite a bit more noise than an air conditioning system, that might be a little bit of a problem, but it's not. So I think this is a fine project. It's very appropriate for the neighborhood, and I don't believe it's detrimental.
Okay, well, I think I know, based on our last one, I think I know how to offer this one up. So I will move for approval of application number 26-038 with the following conditions. All construction activity and vehicles should be contained on site or at a neighboring property with permission of the property owner. Between June 30th and Labor Day, no exterior construction allowed. No work should be permitted on the weekends. Construction activity between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. only.
I will second the motion and vote yes.
Beach votes yes.
Ginny votes yes.
I vote yes.
I vote yes. Again, that's a unanimous.
Thank you very much.
decision. Thank you, Mr. Litchfield. (26-039), please, Sarah.
Application number 26-039, 289 Sea Pine Road Nominee Trust, care of Janine Hoyt, 289 Sea Pine Road, North Chatham, Mass. 02650. Owner of property located at 289 Sea Pine Road, also shown in the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 12K, Block 6, Lot HC 21. The applicant seeks to modify special permit number 24-065 granted on July 11, 2024, which allowed for the demolition of the dwelling and the construction of a new dwelling. The applicant now seeks to modify this special permit to allow for an increase in building coverage and approval for the installation of an exterior mechanical system appliance, AC condenser. The approved building coverage was 3,545 square feet, 8.8%, and the constructed building coverage is 3,613 square feet, 8.9%, where 10% is the maximum allowed. The AC condenser was installed 23.3 feet from the northerly abutter where a 25-foot setback is required. The property contains 58,053 square feet in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Sections 6 and 14, and Sections 5B and 8D 2B of the Protective Bylaw.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chairman Nixon and board members. My name is Janine Hoyt, and I'm the owner of the property at 289 Sea Pine Road in North Chatham. Thank you all for your time today. I've come here today to seek modification of special permit number 24065 granted on July 11th, 2024, which allowed me to demo my home and rebuild new construction of a new home. I would like to modify the permit in 2 ways. Would the board like me to speak to both of those modifications and then questions at the end, or do you want to take each one individually?
Both.
Okay, great. So the first item is the increase in the building coverage. When I came to you in 2024, the original approved building coverage was 3,545 square feet, which is approximately 8.8% of the coverage. The constructed calculation that came back when we did the as-built was a difference of 68 feet, 3,613 feet, which was 8.9%. This increase was 1/10 of a percentage. I am not aware of any changes to the footprint. All the inspections of foundations were spot on. And in my discussions with Ty and Bond, who are the engineers, Sean Riley had advised me that this is actually very common. The only thing that we can point to is that there's a flare on the bottom of the house around most of the perimeter. And the construction of said flare was likely done to a different pitch than the original plans were. And that pitch, a difference of a couple of degrees, can account for inches, and inches times the perimeter of the house can easily add up to 68 feet. Given that this amount is minimal and still under the 10% maximum, I would very much appreciate a favorable decision on this modification request. Do you want me to go through the criteria now, or just all as one?
Talk about the AC.
Okay. The second item is the AC mechanical unit. The area where the ACs are located is a really tight corner of the house. This is an area where the existing home was non-conforming. And when I came to you for the original permit, you had granted me a non-conforming, not in this particular spot, but further up in the garage where I think the garage is 2 feet within the 25 allowable. These AC units were originally planned to be sited in an east to west orientation, which if you show the second picture, would make those two AC units go kind of into that side door. It became apparent when the AC units were installed, I think one of them might have grown to a bigger BTU, so the actual footprint was larger. It became very apparent they were not going to fit in that orientation. So they ultimately ended up putting them side by side, north to south, which caused a 1.7-foot discrepancy into that 25-foot required setback. I believe that, the aesthetics of this change is not detrimental. It actually provides better flow out of that door. It would actually be into the trim of it, and you would be running into it if we were to put it the other orientation. It's, the neighbor that's next to me, it's a 1.7-foot difference of where the unit originally was. I don't think there's any difference in any sound or aesthetics. He actually is up much higher than me, so I don't even think he can see the unit. No change to the environment, slopes, vegetation, wetlands, runoff, and visually, no change from the road. You can't see it at all. So as far as the criteria, neither of those two items cause a difference in the adequacy of the site.
I don't think we'll have you go through the criteria.
Sorry?
I don't think we'll have you go through the criteria.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay. No, thank you for offering. I presume that is your presentation.
That's it.
Yeah, okay. Before we go on to the next stage, I'm going to ask our building commissar, do you agree with the applicant's reasoning for the extra 68, whatever it might be?
Jay Briggs, Building Commissioner, that's quite possible, that's the difference, that 68 feet, that flare at the bottom of the exterior wall.
Did you see anything else out there that could be the reason?
I haven't been to the site, Dave.
Oh, okay.
I'm stuck in the office.
They should let you out now and then. Okay. All right. So is there anyone in the audience today or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak in favor of this application? If so, please indicate you'd like to speak. Don't see anybody. At this time, I'll read the correspondence. Takes care of that. And so is there anybody here today or on Microsoft Teams that wishes to speak either against this or has a specific question? If so, please indicate you'd like to join the conversation. Okay, well, how about questions from the board? Dave?
I have no questions, Dave.
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
I have no questions.
No questions.
Okay.
I will move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
I will second the motion and vote yes.
Beach votes yes.
Ginny votes yes.
I vote yes.
And yes, okay. Eddie?
I think your explanations made perfect sense. And I believe along that side, there's a large stones retaining walls where the condensers are, and then it's, the abutting property is much higher. So I could see why someone in the field probably changed those air conditioners, because it just made more sense that way probably, and didn't even really think about it. And the flare explanation makes a lot of sense also. And I certainly don't find either one of those substantially detrimental to the neighborhood.
Paul?
I agree. I think in this situation, common sense prevails, and it's certainly not substantially more detrimental than what we originally approved, so I will vote yes.
I agree with Ed and Paul. Very plausible. You did a nice presentation. It was very clear, and I think that the flare is a really nice addition. In fact, when we went and looked at it, we all commented on how attractive that is. So, yeah, I think it's common sense, and there's so many details that you have to do with a complete tear down and rebuild that you did, that this is so small in the strata of those things to worry about. So I think we are here as a board to give grace to homeowners for these kinds of things. So I do not see it at all being detrimental and would support it.
Steve?
I think the explanations were reasonable and understandable. I don't think there's any sort of adverse impact on anything, and not detrimental, so.
Lee?
I agree with my colleagues, and also want to just throw out there that if it had been presented to us originally like this, with these numbers, we probably would have supported it originally. So I have no problem approving this.
Yeah, and I agree with all the previous, especially with what Lee just said. With that, I would move approval for application number 26-039. I don't think we need to discuss conditions at all, so, yeah. No,
Already done.
it's already done.
I'll second the motion and vote yes.
Beach votes yes.
Ginny votes yes.
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. That's a unanimous decision.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. (26-040), please.
Application number 26-040, Landing Lane, number 115 LLC, care of James M. Norcross Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 115 Landing Lane, also shown in the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 13K, Block 23, Lot R5. The applicant seeks to replace the existing beach access stairs under Section 4A3A of the Protective Bylaw. The lot contains 21,090 square feet in the R40 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9, and Section 8D2B of the Protective Bylaw.
Good afternoon, Mr. Norcross. Things are going very smoothly.
I hope to continue. Good afternoon, Jamie Norcross on behalf of Landing Lane, number 115 LLC, which is owned by the Bertucci family. Very straightforward request for this proposal. There are some existing timber steps that go down the embankment from the house toward Riders Cove, and the applicant is looking to replace those with stone steps. As Sarah mentioned, a special permit is required under Section 4 of the zoning bylaw. And so going into the criteria under Section 8, the relevant criteria, Adequacy of the site in terms of size. The property contains over 21,000 square feet. The stairs have been designed in accordance with the requirements of the Chatham Conservation Commission, so we believe the size of the site is certainly adequate. Suitability of the site, again, the site is suitable. The stairs currently exist and have been there for many years, and so the proposal is to replace those stairs to provide continued safe access down what is a rather steep slope towards the water. Number 4, impact on neighborhood visual character. I'm sure you've been out to the site. They're essentially hidden from view, even from the Riders Cove side of the property, so there's no negative impact on neighborhood visual character. Let's see, number 8, compatibility of the proposed use with surrounding land uses. It's an accessory use to a residential home in a residential zoning district, so it's certainly compatible in that regard. From being out at the property, I noted there are several abutting properties that have similar features leading down toward Riders Cove. Number 9, impact on the natural environment. Again, as a replacement of the existing stairs, I would suggest the proposal will have no negative impact on the natural environment. I think replacing timber with stone is actually probably an improvement for the environment and not using pressure-treated wood. The Conservation Commission, Mr. Nixon will read a letter from them stating that they will be issuing an order of conditions allowing the project to go forward as conditioned. And so based on the above criteria, I do not think the proposed use is detrimental to the established or future character of the neighborhood and is in fact consistent and in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the bylaw. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here today who would like to speak in favor of this application or on Microsoft Teams? Don't see anyone. I'll read the correspondence. As Jamie said, there's a note here from Conservation Commission, May 20th. Applicant submitted a notice of intent. The project was heard by the Conservation Commission on May 13th. Project was continued to June 24th to make revisions requested by the Commission. The project will then be scheduled for the issuance of an order of conditions when it will be conditioned to meet the performance standards under the various things that they use. And that's the extent of the correspondence. Is there anyone here today or on Microsoft Teams who wishes to speak either against this application or has a specific question? Okay, questions from the board? Paul?
No questions.
Ginny?
No questions.
Steve?
Jamie, could you just describe, the Conservation Commission said something about making revisions that they requested. Do you know what they were and why?
I don't know the specific revision, Steve. I don't believe it related to the stairs. There's some
Okay.
other aspects of the project that require conservation approval but don't involve the zoning board.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Lee?
No questions.
Dave?
So I'm just curious, Jamie, because it's not clear to me on the plan, but, so what you're talking about is replacing the landscape timbers with stone?
Yes.
And then they'll just fix the grade, it's not going to change any grades, but there'll be space in between those stones, or are they on the flat and with
It's going to match what's there now.
Okay.
We had some discussions with the building department. There was originally a different design that would have been sort of platforms.
Yeah,
That requires grading, which you can't do in the flood
Can't do.
zone. So this is basically an at-kind replacement, just with a different material.
okay, great, thanks.
Ed?
No questions.
I will move to close the hearing, move into deliberations.
I'll second the motion and vote yes.
Beach votes yes.
Cheney votes yes.
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, Ginny, deliberations.
Well, beautiful property, great project. Beautiful property, great project, meets our criteria, and do not think that it's substantially more detrimental.
The fact that it's, you're just basically replacing what's there already with probably a bit of material rather than the wood, I think it's a good idea. And as long as conservation's okay with it, then I have no issues.
Lee?
Yep, great project, great replacement of, wood that is starting to deteriorate, and, yeah, meets our criteria.
Dave?
I agree with all previous.
Ed,
As do I.
Paul?
Certainly will not be detrimental to the established or future character of the neighborhood or the town, and will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the bylaw.
Well said. Dave?
So I would move, excuse me, I would move approval of application number 26-040. I think the only condition I think we would want to apply would be all construction activity and vehicles shall be contained on site or at a neighboring property with the permission of the property owner. I don't think we need, I mean, we could put the timing, maybe we should just do timing as well. So and between June 30th and Labor Day, no work should be permitted on weekends and construction activity between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. only.
I'll second the motion and vote yes.
Veach votes yes.
Ginny votes yes.
I vote yes.
I vote yes, that's a unanimous
very much.
vote. And lastly today, sir, we have 26-044.
Application number 26-044, David Briggs, care of James M. Norcross Esquire, P.O. Box 707, Chatham, Mass. 02633. Owner of property located at 170 Vineyard Avenue, also shown in the Town of Chatham's Assessor's Map 10D, Block 4, Lot D114. The applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the demolition of the existing dwelling and the construction of a new dwelling. The existing dwelling is non-conforming and that it is located 13.9 feet from the westerly abutter and entirely within the Coastal Conservancy District, floodplain elevation 11. The proposed dwelling will be non-conforming and that it will be located within the Coastal Conservancy District where a 50-foot setback is required. Also proposed is the reconfiguration of an existing driveway and installation of exterior mechanical system appliances, generator, and AC condensers. The proposed generator will be located within the Coastal Conservancy District, and the proposed AC condenser will be located 2.4 feet from the Coastal Conservancy District where a 50-foot setback is required. The existing building coverage is 1,276 square feet, 68%, and the proposed building coverage is 1,489 square feet, 79.3%, where 15%, but not more than 2,800 square feet, is the maximum allowed. The lot is non-conforming in that it contains 1,877 square feet of buildable upland, where 20,000 square feet is required in the R20 zoning district. A special permit is required under Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Sections 6 and 9, and Sections 5B and 8D2B of the protective bylaw.
Good afternoon, Jamie Norcross on behalf of David Briggs. With me this afternoon is Gordon Clark, the architect for the project, and online is Kieran Healy, who's the engineer from the BSC Group. I know you're familiar with the property. We were last here in November of 2025, and there were some specific concerns, objections raised by the board members during that meeting. So Mr. Clark and Mr. Briggs worked on making revisions to the design to try and address those concerns. So given that you're familiar with the property, I'd like to go through the changes, explain those, and then I can touch on the criteria and then address any questions that you may have. So changes from the last proposal that you saw in November. One of the comments was, concerns, objections, was steepening the roof pitch would provide for a better design. So that's been done on the revised plans that you see before you today as part of the application. A second concern was the second-story deck, which has now been removed. And so that also assists with the roof pitch, so there's no second-story deck proposed as part of this proposal anymore. A third item was size-related. So the overall footprint has been decreased. We now have a building footprint of 1,489 square feet, which is 229 square feet less than the prior proposal, and only 213 square feet more than the existing house, which is 1,200 and change. Decreasing the footprint also resulted in decreasing the gross floor area. And so our current gross floor area is 2,471 square feet, which is a 325 square foot reduction from the November of 2025 plan that you saw previously. Another change is the front porch itself has been modified. It was a little bit, I guess I'd say, busier before. They had stairs going on each side, and railings, but with lowering the height of the front porch now, it's just more of a traditional design with stairs going up the middle, and then there are 4 posts along the width of that, or length of that porch. There is also now a greater difference in the height between the proposed garage and the main part of the proposed structure. It was closer to essentially the exact same height before, but there's, I believe, a 9-inch difference now, and so I think that results in dealing with any potential massing issues by sort of breaking up that visual aspect of the project. I did want to mention that the overall building height, even with steepening the roof pitch, they were able to keep the overall height essentially the same at, I think, within inches of the last proposal. So it's not increasing. I think it's increasing. It was 28 feet. It's 28.2 now from the November proposal. So even with the steeper roof pitch, the overall height, as measured from lowest adjacent grade, as we're required to do because we're in the floodplain, has not changed significantly. Just some dimensional aspects I did want to touch on before going into the criteria. So we don't meet the Conservancy District setback because the property's in the flood zone, so it's impossible to meet the setback for the Conservancy District. The proposal before you does meet all sideline setbacks and the street setback, and it is located further away from the street and the sidelines than the proposal that you saw back in November. We are now just over 30 feet back from Vineyard Ave, and that 30 feet is measured to the steps going to the porch. So if you go to the porch itself, it's another few feet back from the street. So we're a significant difference away from the street setback. As it relates to the setback on the south, the side of the property closest to the garage, we're over, I think, 67 feet away from that setback line. The deck in the back, the current house is 13.8. We're actually improving that setback at over 18 feet. And again, that's measured to the deck, not to the house itself, which is probably another 10 or so feet further away from the setback. And we are over 26 feet, the house itself, setback from the lot line to the north, which is an improvement from the existing house as well. And one item I did want to touch on, I meant to mention during the gross floor area review with those numbers, one of the abutter letters was correct. There was a typo on A3 of the architectural plans, had the gross floor area calculation. It was carried over from a prior version. So the correct numbers were shown on, I believe it's A7, which is the last page of Mr. Clark's plans. That is a comparison between the prior design, which is shown on the top of that page, and the current design, which is shown on the bottom. And to the right of those designs, you see the calculation for gross floor area and a table there. So the bottom right are the numbers that we're dealing with today. And so it's that total for gross floor area adds up to the 2,471 square feet. So it was a typo on page A3. It wasn't meant to be deceptive in any manner. It was just an error in terms of the plans. Building coverage. So in one of the letters, and I know it reads, wow, we're at 79% of the lot coverage. So you think we're building some hotel at the property. And again, that's because about 1,800 square feet of the lot is actually outside the floodplain. So that's all that counts toward our building coverage. The lot itself is 15,000 square feet in size. So if this property, I know it is, but if this property was not in the flood zone, the total footprint could be as high as 2,250 square feet under the zoning bylaw, so 15%. And I understand these rules are different because we're in the flood zone, but I think a comparison and trying to determine the size of what we're proposing versus the size of the property itself is really looking at the overall size of the lot, 15,000 square feet. And we're at under 1,500 square feet, so we're well below what would be allowed if this wasn't in the flood zone of 2,250 square feet. So I don't think it's, again, characterizing it as a large structure in terms of building coverage, I think is really a mischaracterization when you look at the actual size of the building in comparison to the actual size of the lot. And the lot, again, is 15,000 square feet. Moving along to the criteria. Number one, adequacy of the size of the site, including but not limited to maximum lot or building coverage or setbacks. Again, we believe the site is adequate for the proposal. As I just mentioned, we meet all dimensional setbacks irrespective of the Conservancy District, which we are unable to meet, impossible to meet because we're in the floodplain, and we do meet the height requirement of the zoning bylaw. As I also mentioned, the house is now set back over 30 feet from Vineyard Ave, and again, that's measured to the stairs, not to the porch or to the house itself. And while our building coverage, again, that number of 79 square feet, I think is a bit misleading, we're really at 10% if you look at the actual lot size at 1,489 square feet of building footprint. Compatibility of the size of the proposed structure with neighboring properties, I'd say the proposed home is compatible in terms of size. Many of the homes along Vineyard Avenue and the surrounding areas were originally built in the 1950s, but a number of them have been renovated or rebuilt in the last 20 years. I provided as the last page of my handout, it's a gross floor area comparison, and our gross floor area number is certainly consistent with the other homes in the neighborhood. In fact, there are a number of homes that are quite a bit larger. Suitability of the site, including but not limited to impact on neighboring properties. Believe the site is suitable for the project and that construction can be completed, without any negative impact on the neighboring properties or the natural environment. You have a letter from Conservation Commission. They approved the prior design, which was actually larger. We will have to go back to them for an amendment to the order of conditions, but we don't foresee any issues there given that we've actually reduced the size of the disturbance within the Conservancy District. And there's also a letter from the Planning Board that they approve the new driveway that's located within the flood zone, which requires Planning Board approval. And we are actually removing somewhere north of 400 square feet of existing gravel area. So it's going to be a smaller disturbed area for the driveway. Impact of scale, siting, and mass. I'd suggest there's no negative impact on neighborhood visual character. The building height is increasing from the existing. A lot of that is to meet floodplain requirements in terms of we have to come out of the flood zone in order to have a flood compliant foundation before you start your finished space above. The proposed design in front of you today, I say, is traditional cape and mitigates the additional height and mass for the use of dormers on the second floor and by the fact that the house will meet all street and sideline setbacks. As I mentioned at the beginning, the applicant has increased the pitch of the roof, decreased the width of the dormers. I did forget to say that, actually. That was one other comment. Objection raised by members was that the prior design, you can see it on the front elevation here, that dormer on the second story ran essentially the entire width. So that's been brought in. The dormers on all sides have been shortened in width to provide some space between the edge of the dormer and the edge of the roof line. So you can see on the comparison there how it looked previously versus now. Compatibility of the proposed use with neighboring uses, single-family residence in a residential neighborhood, we're certainly compatible. Method of sewage disposal, source of water and drainage. It will be connected to town sewer. You have a letter from in your file from Judy Giorgio. It is connected to town water currently, and will have appropriate drainage. No negative impact on traffic flow and safety. No issues with noise and litter. The property will have all necessary utilities. We are not a formula business. Number 12 is applicable as we are in the floodplain. So first part of that criteria, A, the extent of lateral expansion proposed. The proposed structure will represent a lateral expansion of 213 square feet as the additional footprint of the home will be slightly increasing in size. I suggest the expansion is necessary as the applicant is unable to use the basement area for any living area or the placement of mechanicals, which now must be located above the floodplain on the first or second floor. B, under section 12, the extent to which lateral expansion impacts the impervious area of the site. I would suggest the lateral expansion will have a negligible impact on the impervious area of the site. As I mentioned, other improvements of the site, specifically the reduction in the size of the gravel driveway by north of 400 square feet and the use of a flood-compliant foundation, offset the 200-odd square feet increase in the building footprint. So again, based on that, I know Mr. Clark, Mr. Briggs went through the comments, concerns, objections, and tried to come forward with a revised design that addressed those. And I don't believe what we're proposing is substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood, and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here today or on Microsoft Teams who would like to speak in favor of this application? Don't see anyone. I'll read the correspondence. First, we have a note from the Planning Board, Town of Chatham, June 9th. The location of the property at 170 Vineyard Ave is within the residential R20 zoning district, as well as the Conservancy and Floodplain Overlay districts. This request for comment from the ZBA is the result of the applicant's need to obtain a special permit from the ZBA. According to the ZBA request, the applicant seeks to enlarge, extend, or change a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot via the demolition of the existing dwelling and the construction of a new dwelling. The existing and proposed dwelling are both located within the Conservancy District. Also proposed is the reconfiguration of the existing driveway within the Conservancy District, which the Planning Board offered comment on in November 2024. The proposed location of the driveway within the Conservancy District has not changed for this review. After review of the requested driveway for the above referenced application, the board voted 5-0-0 to send a positive recommendation to the ZBA for the location of the driveway within the Conservancy District. The board requests that 2 conditions be added to the approval, which states that the driveway be constructed of permeable material and in a manner which permits the unobstructed flow of water be added to the ZBA review findings. Planning Board members suggested that the ZBA also have the applicant resolve the building square footage discrepancies between the plans prior to acting on the special permit. Members voting in the 5-0-0 request were so on and so forth. Then we have a note. This is June 9th. It's from Judith Giorgio, the health agent for the town. Our records indicate that this property contains an existing 4-bedroom dwelling. The proposal to construct a new 4-bedroom dwelling is acceptable. However, approval is conditioned upon connection of the property to the existing municipal sewer system. Please note that the property was previously ordered to connect to the sewer system, and compliance with that order remains outstanding. Therefore, sewer connection must be completed as part of this project and prior to final approval. Then we have a letter. This is from Barbara McLean, 235 Vineyard Avenue. Stated June 6th, as a resident of Vineyard Ave, for over 60 years, I'm writing regarding the proposal of property change at 170. There have been previous plans proposed for this property that the ZBA has wisely turned down. The scope of the proposal is definitely too large for the current lot, and the actual exterior of the house plan does not fit in with the existing character of the neighborhood. When the property was first sold and an entire year went by with no activity in the existing house, it was obvious that the owners had little regard for its appearance. I was so upset to see it go into disarray that I personally contacted the owner to voice my displeasure, and he assured me that the situation would not continue and the measures would be taken to clean up the property. A year went by, nothing happened. At some point, initiative was taken to clean up the property, but that only happened once, and months later, the property remains a mass of vines, weeds, tall grass, and who knows what else lurks amidst the debris. The current proposed property change looks more like a rental property than a single-family dwelling. I strongly express my displeasure for the current proposal and respectfully request that his permit be denied. Then we have a letter. This is from Tom Bonneville, 150 Meadowview Road, stated June 9th. I've been received your letter concerning the application of David Briggs for a special permit to allow for the demolition of the current dwelling and the construction of a new. I have reviewed the material provided online and found the data regarding living area and gross area confusing and inconsistent from one drawing to another. I encourage the board to look carefully at drawings A3 and A7. They both show a front elevation of the proposed home, the bottom diagram on A7, but each offers vastly different square footage amounts for the home's living and gross area. At worst, this presentation is deceptive, and at best, it is sloppy. The board and we nearby residents who are trying to arrive at a fair opinion on this project deserve a clear and consistent presentation of what is being proposed. I'm afraid this continues a pattern of shoddiness and disrespect for the impact of this project on Vineyard Ave in general, its nearby neighbors in particular, who have had to look at the rundown, overgrown, derelict house for years now. And for that matter, the ZBA itself, who for now may have to spend an inordinate amount of time deciphering what is being presented here. I think this version of the application should be rejected out of hand until it's cleaned up and made clear, internally consistent, easy to understand. Even if that is done, this proposal will remain grossly nonconforming in a number of ways. Granting a special permit is an accommodation, not a right. That accommodation should be earned in part on the merits of the proposal, but also on the behavior and the attitude of the applicant towards the neighborhood he proposes to live in. I think this application fails on both accounts, and I order the board to ultimately reject it entirely. Then we have a letter. This is from Larry Palmerton, 50 Horseshoe Lane, June 9th. I asked the board to consider why the owner, attorney, and architect of the proposed structure have submitted a third development plan for the property with few material changes, continues to be unacceptable on numerous criteria. Some possible reasons to consider include the following. 1, the owner significantly overpaid when purchasing the property, is hoping to, quote-unquote, wear down the ZBA to gain approval to bail him out of a self-made financial conundrum at the expense of the town's building standards, environment, neighborhood integrity. 2, perhaps the owner hopes to leverage an argument that a precedent was set when a large addition was approved and built across the street. However, the circumstances of that project were very much different in many ways, including that the lot size was much larger. The project was also an addition to existing structure with consistent architecture and was not an attempt to subrogate the neighborhood and community. 3, maybe the owners or his representatives are ignorant of the reasons for limiting development in a floodplain or for the environmental standards. Why is a 5-bedroom house worthy of being considered for a structure covering 79% of buildable area? The answer is arrogance. Next, it seems likely the owner and his representatives were not listening to the neighbors who have clearly expressed, please involve us, and please clean up your property, mow the lawn. No maintenance has occurred since it was purchased 3 years ago. The owner also was not listening when a ZBA member characterized the prior design as ugly because few meaningful changes have been incorporated since prior designs. The proposal itself is also shoddy, as evidenced by the inconsistent data that is presented. The building height over the garage has been removed, and the font used in diagrams is essentially unreadable. I ask that the ZBA avoid being worn down by the arrogance of the developer's team, but instead to raise the bar for adherence to established town standards and code. It is suggested that the ZBA limit any structure on this property to 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a maximum of 2,000 square feet, and height consistent with the current structure. Then we have a note from the Conservation here in Chatham, May 20th. Applicant submitted a notice of intent on October 10th, 2024. The project was heard by the Conservation Commission on October 23rd, 2024, and December 11th, 2024. On November 12th, 2025, the project was issued an order of conditions when it was conditioned to meet the performance standards under the Wetlands Protection Act and also the Town of Local Wetland Bylaw. On June 1st, we received the following note from Judy Patterson. Judy's address is 119 Vineyard. I'm writing to express my extreme displeasure with the proposed dwelling in my neighborhood. The new proposed plan is hardly any different than the other 2 plans presented, which the ZBA wisely turned down. It is still way too large for the lot and once again does not fit in with the character of the neighborhood. In addition, it is being located in the Coast Conservancy District. I believe the last time this was before the ZBA, the chairman suggested to the attorney handling this that it may be a good idea for the owner to talk to property owners nearby. This has not been done, nor has the owner made any additional attempts in the several years he has owned the property to clean it up. It continues to be an eyesore in the neighborhood and continues to rot with overgrown vines and grass everywhere. The owner has not appeared before the ZBA the multiple times this has been presented, which suggests he doesn't care about the neighborhood and what he'd like to accomplish. I respectfully request this permit be denied again. And some pictures that were submitted with this. And that is the extent of the correspondence. I would now ask if there's anybody in the audience or on Microsoft Teams who wishes to speak. Yes, ma'am. Please. Thank you.
My name's Allison Carr. I live at 116 Vineyard Avenue. I have written in the past about this project, and to credit the architect, it does seem to be a little bit better. My big concern here is that we seem to just have a concept problem. Taking a 1950s four-bedroom house, and those bedrooms are way too small for a modern dwelling, and turning it into a five-bedroom house with accompanying bedrooms, and one of which seems to be an ADU. It's too big. To paraphrase my father, who was an Army sergeant during World War II, we're taking 10 pounds of house and trying to shove it into a 5-pound bag. And while we have reduced the overall square footage some, we're still at 9.5 pounds trying to go into this bag. It's a delicate lot. It is on a street that has thus far managed to resist mansionization, although it's happening around us. Vineyard Avenue has really kind of stayed clean with this. And I would encourage you to really encourage the owner, encourage the people working the concept to pare it down. 5 bedrooms, it's going to be hard to fit into this small, sensitive space in a modest neighborhood. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to join the conversation, either here or on Microsoft Teams? Don't see anybody. So, did you want to have any rebuttal to the previous?
Just very briefly, just to touch on a couple points. First to start, I might be getting worn down, but we're not trying to wear down the board. We know better than that, so we're going to assure you that's not our goal. I would disagree with the concept that we're grossly nonconforming, for one. I mean, again, obviously the Conservancy District, but all other metrics we conform with under the zoning bylaw meet or, in fact, improve on a number of setbacks, as I mentioned. And the fact that I would disagree with that we've made few material changes. I understand our first proposal was not well received, and that was vastly different than what you see today. And I think what the plans today are also significantly different than what you saw before. And I understand people say it's too big, but you look at the numbers and it's 1,489 square feet for footprint. It's 2,400 and change for gross floor area, which is comparable to the neighborhood. And the neighborhood has all different types of styles and designs, bigger homes, smaller homes. And I understand it's different and it's replacing what's there now, but I don't see how it's this massive home when we meet all these metrics. And we meet which is difficult when you have to measure from lowest adjacent grade in the floodplain. It's tough to meet that for height, and we meet that, even with a steeper roof pitch. I think, as noted on Mr. Healy's, Kieran's site plan, if we were measuring from average adjacent grade, which is done everywhere else except the floodplain, we're at 23 and change for building height. So, again, to say it's this massive structure that it overwhelms the site, when we meet setbacks, we're under the building height. Again, looking at the lot size, we're underneath what would be allowed, again, if it wasn't in the floodplain. I understand it is in the floodplain. And then just touching on the floodplain aspect, there is an expansion, lateral expansion. I would suggest it's minor in size, that it's compensated for with the driveway reduction, with the flood-compliant foundation. And we're also not dealing with the velocity zone. It's not an area like Little Beach where there's flooding and wave action and everything else. I mean, this is in the flood zone based on elevation. The water's across the street. So again, I don't think it's an issue where there's going to be continued flooding, but again, that's the elevations. We have to address it, and those are the requirements we have to meet. So again, you've spent enough time on this. I appreciate that and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Okay, questions from the board? Steve?
I guess the one question I have is that in the letters that we received, in particular, the one from the Board of Health, they refer to the proposal to construct a new 4-bedroom dwelling is acceptable. And yet there's 5 bedrooms on all the drawings that we received. So did they receive something different? Why is there a discrepancy in the number of bedrooms between what the Board of Health is approving and what we're looking at.
Her letter is incorrect. There's 5 bedrooms. I spoke with Judy Giorgio earlier today, and we are eligible to add, there's 4 bedrooms currently. We're eligible to add a 5th bedroom as proposed based upon the sewer connection when that happens.
Okay, okay. I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Lee?
That was actually my question as well, because it was unclear. So for right now, I think I'm going to hold off, but if I think of anything, I'll get back to you.
Okay, fine. Dave?
Yeah, Jamie, I just want to clarify, I'm hearing a lot of different opinions about this proposal, but I believe you said in the numbers in reading the ad, that what you're seeking to increase, you're increasing the footprint by 213 square feet, is that correct?
Just double check that before I answer. Yes, we're going from what is 1,276 square feet for footprint, and we're
Yeah.
proposing 1,489.
Right, so that's 213 square feet of an increase in the footprint.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, that's all I had, thanks.
Ed?
No questions.
Paul?
So let me just pursue that a little bit. So you have an expansion, a lateral expansion of 213 square feet in a flood zone, floodplain. What's driving that?
Well, a lot of that, 100 and, what is it, 80, Gordon? 180 square feet. 180 square feet's the porch, is the covered porch. And sorry. I'll rein him in, Dave. 180 square feet's the porch, results in a significant portion of that. And it's just trying to, it's very difficult to design a home that meets the exact footprint of what's there now. And so there's a slight expansion. As I mentioned, you can't put mechanicals downstairs. You really can't, there's a garage space, but it can't be used for any other area. So some of that has to go on the first and second floor, which results in expanding the footprint. I mean, could you make it to meet the exact size of what's there now? I suppose, but I don't see how that 200 square feet and 180 of that is the covered porch is creating any environmental concerns relative to the flood zone.
But overall, you're going to a 5-bedroom home in a floodplain, right?
Connected to sewer, yep.
Okay, I don't have any other questions.
Jamie, I had a couple. Number one, what's the height of the existing house? Do you have
Karen
that?
can confirm this. I believe it's 24.4. Karen, do you have that number exact so I don't misspeak?
I believe that's it. I'm just looking for the number right now. The existing house, the peak elevation was 31.9, and the grade was at 7.5. So that's 24.4 was the existing height.
Okay, thank you on that. And the coverage, Jamie, bothers me greatly. Why did you have to go up? I mean, 68%, which is what we're dealing with now, is a lot. And to make it even more so and go up to 79%, I haven't heard a good reason as to why that's necessary. So,
Again, the restrictions from the floodplain are such that it's difficult to match that existing square footage and have the mechanicals and everything else where you have to put them on the first floor. You can't put them in the basement like a traditional home where you could then use that space for something else. So is it impossible? No. Do I think the floodplain coverage numbers are a bit unfair for a property like this. Yes, I do. If you're looking at size, again, the size, we're 1,489 square feet. I understand your coverage numbers, but there should be a view of the floodplain percentage. I understand that, but what is the overall impact on the property in terms of visual character? Well, it's a 15,000 square foot lot, and you have a building footprint of 1,489, 10%. I mean, those, you've had several today that are significantly higher than that. Those are in town all the time. So if, from a zoning perspective, what is the impact on the neighborhood in terms of the size of the structure? It's 10% of the lot. And so, roundabout way of answering your question is, I guess, yes, there could be a possible way to design it so it meets the exact footprint, but why? Again, it's numbers, but it's not creating this enormously large structure that's out of proportion with the lot or the neighborhood.
Is there a number that you think would be too much?
Well, it depends.
Okay, that wasn't.
Of course, yeah. I mean, of course something's too much, but if you're looking at the numbers, again, I understand the floodplain percentages and it throws it out of whack. But if you look at the size of the lot and the size of the home and you're at 10%, I mean, that's consistent with the neighborhood, is consistent with other properties and other projects. So I don't think that's really out of line in terms of what they're asking for.
Jenny, questions?
Most of my questions have actually already been asked, but the depth of the house, when I'm looking at the before site plan, after site plan, it's pretty much the same, correct? It's the same?
Same.
Depth. Okay. It's just cited a little bit differently.
Or if you want to come up, you can address that. Just got to speak on that.
The main body of the house is still 26 by 30.
Okay.
That hasn't changed.
Okay.
And if you subtract the deck, we've only increased the footprint of the house by about 129 square feet. So the actual footprint of the house on the property, minus the porch that's on the front, has only increased 129. 129 square feet. So it's de minimis, really. And like Jamie said, it's only 10% lot coverage if you didn't have to take into account the floodplain.
Okay.
So it's not if you look at the house right now, the current house, when you go on the second floor, you have to be on your knees to look out the windows.
Mm-hmm.
So to say that it shouldn't be higher than that, it's not even legal on the second floor. There's 6'10" head height. When you measure from the floor to the ceiling, it's only 6'10". Doesn't even meet code
On the second floor.
on the second floor. So,
Because the current house, that second floor is really a dormer. It's not a,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. And the dormer is, it does have a slope on it. It's very cottage-like, but most of the houses in the neighborhood are much larger than that. So it's not really, I don't feel it's really out of proportion. And the items that were addressed by the board when they told us that we should increase the roof pitch, I was cognizant of the height of the house and trying to stay under the 30 feet. So I think I got a little overzealous in trying to flatten the roof pitches to keep it far below that. But in steepening the roof pitch, raising it up a little bit, and reducing and changing that dormer pitch to 4, I think greatly improves the look of the house. So if you weren't comparing this in a flood zone, and you were looking at this house on a standard lot with a 10% lot coverage, which is what the public perceives when they drive by. They don't know it's in a flood zone. You can't tell. It is, I realize that is the criteria, and you have to abide by that. But the house itself in there, I feel would be a vast improvement to what is there now, for sure. And it is a very traditional design. And this isn't our first time we've designed a house in Chatham, so we're not trying to do something that's really out of character for, Chatham or the neighborhood. And it is traditional roof pitches. It's a 12-11 roof pitch on the house. The trim is, traditional in style and how it's addressed, the shingles on the side of the house and so forth. And I think if the house is approved, it will be, a positive improvement for the neighborhood. And they will mow the lawn then. I apologize for that.
And so the ceiling height on the first floor and the second floor?
Pardon?
Ceiling heights on the second floor and the first floor?
The ceiling height on the second floor is 7'6". It says 7'8" to the plate, but when you subtract the sheet rock and the
7'6".
strapping, it's 7'6". It is just 8 foot, slightly under that when you subtract, again, the sheet rock, it's to the plate.
On the first floor.
On the first floor. So 8.
So we tried to get a little bit more ceiling height, because even on the first floor of the existing house, I think it's 7'4". It's very low.
Okay.
So we're not trying to make it a McMansion. We're just trying to bring it more into compliance with what traditional houses that are built now are using.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
I will move to close the hearing and move into deliberations.
I'll second the motion and vote yes.
Jeannie votes yes.
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
And veto, yes.
Okay, deliberations. Lee?
Okay, well, there's a lot here. I will say that I appreciate the changes that have been made. I like the front porch. I like the traditional design and the dormer that's been shortened. I think that you have listened to us regarding that. I will say I still struggle. I struggle with criteria number 5 for the massing, and basically attribute, I feel like, you're right, it's not a big house, but it looks big. It looks big mostly because of the garage addition. I think if that could be subordinate to the main house, like the house is now, although what you said about the current house, that has really kind of messed us up in terms of, we look at that, and it's basically not even legal, the second floor. But we don't know that if we're looking at it, but now we do. But the fact that that's a house you wouldn't even build today, the current house. So I guess I am still just struggling a little bit with the mass of the addition. Not the addition, the garage addition. I'm assuming it's a full two-car garage.
No, it's a one-car garage.
It's a one-car garage, okay.
Gordon, you gotta use the mic if you're gonna talk.
In our efforts to reduce the size of the house and the square footage, the original garage, that section of the house that has the garage under it, was 22 feet wide across the front. We reduced it down to 19.6, which is really undersized, so it barely fits. It won't fit a Suburban or anything like that in the garage. So we did that so that we could try to shrink the house as much as possible. And so the proportions of that, right now, it's only 19'6" wide.
Okay,
So it's not even the true proportions. It is a small one-car garage.
okay, thank you. Well, I guess what I'd like to say is, if you would consider, and you don't have to answer this now, but if you and the owner would consider making the garage addition only 2 stories. You have the garage, and then you have the great room above it. And that would just step it down. I know a lot of people like to take advantage of the, downslope, but that would step it down so that it would be a little bit more subordinate to the main house. Unfortunately, you wouldn't get your 5th bedroom. But that's my one request. And my other request, it has to do with the house, but it has to do with the whole project, is the maintenance. I mean, it doesn't have to look perfect, but it needs to be maintained. I think that would go a long way with the neighbors and their thoughts regarding this whole project. So those are my 2 cents. I would like to see you go back to the drawing board just one more time.
Could I mention one thing about the garage, that section of the house? It currently, above the garage, in other words, the garage, if we keep the garage under, if you put a roof on it, it still is gonna be, in other words, if it matches the roof pitch, we don't really have a third story on it. It really is, you wouldn't want to put the roof down at the level of the, you know what I'm saying? Because that, if you put that, the roof, if you picture it now, if you look at the elevation, I don't know, it's not on there, but, if you put this part of the house, the gable, down here, it's really gonna look strange. So this is really only, that's a single story, and that's really a story and a half. If we could remove the dormers, but it's really only a story and a half. I mean, I could reduce the height of this a little bit, but I think it would look, I understand what you're saying, but I think that would really not look very well.
Okay, I appreciate your expertise. I'm not an architect, so, but it just seems to be a very big garage addition. But the numbers don't say it's a big house, but visually, it looks like a big house.
Well, the garage looks big because the house is small.
Dave Veach.
Well,
It's okay.
I hear, first of all, I think that you've responded very well to at least the comments I had about the previous iteration. And I think that you've done it in a way that has made this look much better and much more traditional roof pitches and stepping the dormers in and all the, I mean, it looks, and eliminating that little, the porch over the deck, that vast improvement. I think you've responded very well with respect to all of those things. And I'm hearing what Lee's saying, but I don't think I'm not as concerned as she's expressed to me with the massing, because at a certain point, I think you're really talking about the dormers on the garage, and I don't think that that's enough. And those dormers are well proportioned, and they look fine. And so I don't think that if you took those dormers off, well, then you had a one-story, a room there with perhaps a cathedral ceiling or an attic space or something. I don't think you've really reduced the apparent massing.
The window height of those, in those dormers
Excuse
in the
me.
garage, they're only 5'8".
Please sit down.
So.
Please sit down. Thank you.
So anyway, and they've made efforts, I think, to address at least most of the concerns that we expressed in the last time around. They're, I don't think, ever going to please many of the neighbors, but it's not a lot. 200 some square feet, of which 180 square foot porch of an increase in footprint is not a large increase. And yes, we're in the floodplain here, but one of the things about that is we know that what's going to get constructed is going to meet the requirements, the foundation requirements of the floodplain. The house, absolutely, as it exists, needs an upgrade. I don't think anybody's questioning that. And so I just really, I'm very hard pressed to say that this is substantially more detrimental than what's there. I think it's a reasonable, and would look, in terms of style and size, and comparing it to what's there, I think they've done a great job, and I will support it. I think that they've constrained it, they've moved it, they've done a lot, and I think they deserve to, in my judgment, get a special permit.
Ed?
Well, the applicant hasn't been a good neighbor, and now he's paying the price, quite honestly. I feel he has made substantial changes. I feel the plan, it's a traditional cape with a farmer's porch on it, and hopefully someone's gonna be on that farmer's porch and is gonna get along with the neighbors. I don't want to see that porch removed. I think it's an architectural detail that works well, and, I don't see this being substantially detrimental to the neighborhood. It's a classic cape. I feel the applicant has listened to us in respect to what we've asked for. And if I was voting, I would be in support of the project.
Paul?
Well, I think this project has been through an extended number of hearings, as you are well aware, and we've gone through, I think, 3 different iterations of the potential house here. And in that sense, A7 is a good showing of the difference between the current proposal and the last proposal, not necessarily going back to the first proposal. But the concern I had from, and I expressed it the last time around, is the expansion of the house in the floodplain. And we're going to, from a 68% coverage to a larger coverage. And I think if this were not a floodplain, that kind of an expansion could be possible. But I have trouble with, as was explained, the deck plus 129 square feet to increase the coverage. So you come back to criteria 5 and to criteria 12 with respect to the extent of lateral expansion. And I think that it just needs to be a smaller house or a smaller building overall. So that's my impression at this point.
Ginny?
Yeah, what we look at is, well, let me start with, I too appreciate the changes that you've made throughout the process. This is the 3rd time here. But what we are really tasked with looking at is what's there now and what's being proposed here in your final proposal. And what you're proposing is 4.5 feet taller than what's there now. It is, albeit you've made significant increases into the large increase to the building coverage in a floodplain, you're still 17% in the floodplain. I know you've mentioned several times, if it weren't in the floodplain, if it is in the floodplain, it's 100% in the floodplain. So a 17% increase is in the floodplain, I still think is a lot. I appreciate that, the comment about the porch. I think that that is a very attractive element, and it's unfortunate that that's so much of that increase, but if you could get that down more, that would be. And then I think the massing, I agree with Lee, that it's the second story on the subordinate part of the house. The current house has the step down, and I'm not saying you have to build exactly what's there before, but that is part of what fits that sloping topography nicely, and what makes that garage proposal seem tall to me as well. It is a little bit lower than, and you'd lowered it even more this time, than the original house. But I think what's thrown me a couple times is, Sarah, could you pull up A79? And maybe it's just, look at me the way I look at these, but okay, so when you look at the white space between the left-hand side, the garage side, and the main house, Okay, when I keep seeing it at first, when I'm looking at it, I see that white space between those two as being white space, but it's not. It's a roof. It's a roof line. And I think that the taller roof line, at 4.5 feet taller, the main house, and that roof line going across, albeit it is dropped down, and connecting to the garage that has those dormers, that is, to me, the mass that I see. It is just taller, and the footprint is really not a whole lot different. But that is what I'm seeing. If that could be, I think to Lee's point, reducing that roof line, almost making it look like it wasn't a roof there. It was just a separate, just a single-story connection from the garage to the main house, or a little bit taller, and getting rid of those dormers at the top and having that really be a garage. That would really reduce a lot of the mass, seeing through the house. That is what I think. I just see if you colored in the roof, instead of it being white and it was a color, that's a pretty big block. And that, to me, is the mass that I see when I really examine it. But I do appreciate and acknowledge the reductions that you've made. I just don't think that they're quite enough, especially the criteria. For me, criteria 1 was what I talked about a lot last time and the time before. You only have 9% buildable upland. So a house of that size, the 5 bedrooms with 1.5 feet from the maximum height allowed in Chatham, is a big house on that lot when you just really don't have the coverage. And I think the increase, a 17% increase in the lateral expansion of the floodplain is too high.
Well, the things that have been mentioned, particularly by Paul and Ginny and Lee, I would double down on. The massing is too much. But you know what's missing here, Jamie, is I read 4 very long letters, and some of the points, but some of the points really ring true. There's not a single neighbor that wants this. No one. And despite what was suggested to you before about meeting with neighbors and somehow getting them on board, it's very difficult, I think, for us, and we're here to protect the neighborhood. Well, if the neighborhood is against it, it's kind of throwing stuff in their face by saying, well, yeah, but you'll like it, or maybe you won't like it, or, whatever it is. That it's just not the way to do it. I think the suggestions about making things smaller, making it fit, don't run over that 68%. Don't, throw a couple of hundred more feet. I think it has to be dialed back, and I really would urge you the next time around to make sure there's letters in here from neighbors in support. Would you like us to vote?
No, Mr. Chairman, I would ask for a withdrawal without prejudice, please.
I would move to
Grant the motion.
I would move to accept the request for withdrawal without prejudice.
I'll second the request for withdrawal without prejudice. And a vote yes.
Jeannie votes yes.
I vote yes.
And I vote yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank you for your efforts. So, I don't think there's anything else to talk about today. So,
I'll move adjournment.
I'll second the motion to adjourn and vote yes.
Veach
All
votes
right.
yes.
Ed votes yes.
Jeannie votes yes.
He votes yes.
I vote yes.
I vote yes. And Sarah, the official time is?
5:08 PM.
That's it. Good night.